Hello class, this is Demetrius Wilson with Management 2. We are now on Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is on planning and strategic management. You must plan if you're a manager. You should also plan if you're an employee and or associate. And you must be strategic in your planning as well as your management. So our learning objectives are summarize the planning process and describe organizational goals. Discuss the components of strategy and the types of strategic alternatives. Describe how to use SWOT analysis in formulating strategy, that's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Identify and describe various alternative approaches to business level strategy formulation. Identify and describe various alternative approaches to corporate level strategy formulation. And discuss how tactical plans are developed and implemented, and describe the basic types of operational plans used by organizations. They all kind of intermingle, they all kind of connect. So I know there are a lot of different learning objectives, but they are all connected. And as we go through the chapter, you'll kind of see why and how they are all connected. So Google strategy for dominance. So check out Larry's quote. It says, "We don't talk about our strategy because it's strategic. I would rather have people think we're confused than let our competitors know what we're going to do." And that's from Larry Page, a Google co-founder, Larry and Sergey, that founded Google. So that makes sense. They're being very strategic in terms of what they're doing over at Google. So as you see, check them out. As you're reading through the chapter, you'll read the story about them. But I also want you to check out, kind of the what they've created at Google and the type of atmosphere that they've created, thinking strategically and planning ahead on what would people like and how can they get the best and the brightest talent there at Google. And you'll be amazed to see that some of the things that they do there. If some of you have a tech background, that may be your aspiration is to get there. But you do have to move up north unless you want to go work at the one over in Santa Monica, which is not as nice as the one in Mountain View because that's the headquarters. Um, so like I said, we'll talk about planning and organizational goals, and remember the whole thing of management is the basis of it is planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. And so once you have those four factors, kind of know the basis of those, and then you build and expand upon that and increase your knowledge, you'll know exactly what management is all about and see how they all connect. As you see here, this is environmental context. Check out the diagram, and I'm not going to go through each line or whatever, but you can see that operational goals, strategic goals, and tactical goals all are connected. The planning process takes place within environmental context. Managers must develop a complete and thorough understanding of this context to determine the organization's mission and to develop its strategic, tactical, and operational goals and plans, right? So strategic, tactical, and operational, those are all different facets. They're all on different levels as well. You get down to the very nitty gritty of the person, taking the actual phone call. What are they doing? How is their process handled? So but it all starts with planning, right? Because it goes planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. You have to plan. There's a term in project management that says um, if you don't plan, you're planning to fail. If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail, right? So you have to plan. That's in everyday life. It's not just in business, but you have to know that planning is very, very important. So let's talk about a mission, right? Companies should have a mission statement, and everyone should know what that mission statement is. You have to know what it is because you want to align what you're doing with what the mission is, and you also want to align your own personal mission with that as well. So over here you have the definition of a mission statement of an organization's fundamental purpose. Like, what is the purpose of your organization? What is it here to do? Now, obviously, it's here to earn a profit and to provide money for the individuals and their families that work at the company. But what is the fundamental purpose? Are you there to provide services for carpet cleaning? Are you there to provide the best service engine? What are you there to do? Strategic goals are goals set by and for organization's top management, right? So remember we talked about strategic, tactical, different types of goals, but strategic is for top management because they're going to say, this is our strategy, this is the strategy of the company, this is the direction that we're going, this is why, and everybody else needs to follow suit. The tactical goals are goals set by organizations' middle managers, right? So the middle managers in between, they say middle managers because you have a manager, right, who's the top management, and then you also have people who report to you as well. So you're kind of, stuck in the middle. But strategic goal is a goal set for by and for an organization's top management. Tactical goal is a goal set by and for an organization's middle management. So it goes strategic, it goes tactical, and then you have your operational goal. So operational goal is a goal set by and for an organization's lower level managers, right? So just as an example, because every organization is set up and built differently, strategic goal would be like a vice president. Then a tactical goal would be like a director, and then the operational goal would be like the manager of customer service, right? So again, operational goal set by and for organizations lower level managers, right? So if you think about a typical company setup, it could go VP, director, manager, and go down the line like that. But that's how it flows down, right? So upper management gets it, and then they align their goals, or middle managers align their goals, or directors align their goals with the VPs, and then the manager of customer service align his goals with the goals of the director, whose goals are aligned with the goals of upper management or the VP. All connected. So connected to operational goals is I'm sorry, not to operational goals, but to strategic goals up here, right? So first we went over the goals, now we go over to the plans. So a strategic plan is a general plan outlining decisions about the resources, allocation, priorities, and action steps necessary to reach strategic goals, right? So who would be looking at that? Upper management would be looking at that. So we looked over the goals, strategic, tactical, and operational. Now we're going to look at the plans. So I want you to read the story, setting a new direction for General Motors. Very interesting. All the, and all the textbooks that we use here, they have great stories about actual business, and it's good to get that actual business sense as opposed to just looking at definitions and things that are in the textbook, because you have to know and understand what's going on in the real world. Operational plan is a plan that focuses on carrying out tactical plans to achieve operational goals, right? So who has the tactical plans? Those middle level managers, those directors, and the operational plan is going to be connected to the tactical plan. So, okay, middle manager, director, you say, hey, this is what I need for you to do, and I'm Demetrius, I'm the customer service manager. Then I have to put together my operational plan to align with his goals and then carry out whatever processes I need to carry out to reach those goals. So a strategy is a comprehensive plan for accomplishing an organization's goals, right? So it's just a plan. Here, what's my strategy? Here's a plan to do it. I want to do A, B, C, and D, and then the end result is going to be X, Y, and Z. And strategic management, a little bit more of an extensive definition, is a comprehensive and ongoing management process aimed at formulating and implementing effective strategies, right? They must be effective, not the ones that don't work. A way of approaching business opportunities and challenges, right? So you want to be strategic in your approach, and you want to find out what's most efficient and what's most effective. A lot of times people think about things and they don't think about them necessarily in the right manner. They come up and they say, hey, this works, right? The something's flooding. If we stick this where the water's coming through, it's going to stop it. But yeah, then maybe that's the right answer. But what about the second right answer? Maybe there's a better answer. Maybe we stop it up and where the water's coming through, and then we go find where the source of the water breakage or leakage is, and then we go fix that, right? So you want to look for the second right answer because the first right answer might not be a permanent fix. It might just be a temporary fix. Effective strategy, a strategy that promotes a superior alignment between the organization and its environment and the achievement of strategic goals, right? So makes sense. So superior alignment between the organization and its environment, right? So you want to be connected to what's going on in your internal environment and also your external environment. We talk about, reducing the carbon footprint and, companies being more socially responsible and things of that nature. Distinctive competence, so an organizational strength possessed by only a small number of competing firms, right? So if it's building washing machines, and my company and three other companies are the only one that have purchased all the metal or the iron or the steel throughout the United States, then we would have a distinctive competence, and for our comparative advantage, we should produce things that are made of metal. Scope, you'll see that a lot used or used a lot in project management. When applied to strategy, it specifies the range of markets in which organization will compete. So what's our scope? Because if you have a business, you can't sell everything. You want to sell a certain amount of things. Now, some businesses sell a lot more things because they have the infrastructure to do so, like a Best Buy, right? They sell electronics. You'll pick up a phone, but you can also pick up a refrigerator. So you know that their scope is a little bit bigger. Now it could be that I have a kiosk in the mall and all I'm going to sell is phones because my overhead dictates that and says, hey Demetrius, you can only purchase the kiosk and you can sell phones, right? So what's my scope? So if you know your scope, then you'll know how you should act and plan accordingly. Resource deployment, how an organization distributes its resources across the areas in which it competes, right? So how are we going to distribute our resources? Am I going to say, so think about resources because human resources are people, people are resources. If I have calls coming in, am I going to have people on the phone or am I going to have people doing the back office things? You have to, upper management determines that and they say, okay, what do we need here? And sometimes the levels go up and down. Maybe it's more calls, so we have more people on the phones. Maybe it's less calls, so we have more people doing things in the background, fixing amendments, doing all kind of paperwork, and that needs to be done. That's not just taking the phone call. So it depends on how you deploy your resources, and that's a decision that management has to make, and they have to fluidly make it, especially at their busiest time of year. Business level strategy, the set of strategic alternatives from which an organization chooses as it conducts business in a particular industry or market, right? So business level, we want to understand, what our direction is. So here it says organization, so alternatives, right? So you have alternatives, like we said, to deploy certain resources. You have alternatives in terms of what market you want to stay in or maybe pull out of, or what market that you want to grow in. So you have to have a good business level strategy, which is attached to the next one, which is your corporate level strategy. This is a set of strategic alternatives from which an organization chooses as it manages its operations simultaneously across several industries and several markets. So if you're selling soda and you're selling orange juice and then you're also selling chicken, you're going to have a good corporate level strategy and say, okay, orange juice is going well, soda's going well, chicken's not going so well. We need to scrap chicken, sell that to someone else, right? Sell it to Kentucky Fried Chicken or Yum Brands, and then continue to only diversify between making soda and whatever else I said, soda and water or something like that, right? So if you have three products that you produce, three different business lines, and you decide to scrap one of them, find out how much money you can get for selling that, and then continue with the other two, right? So or it could be that orange juice, soda, and chicken are doing quite well, and you continue to evenly deploy your resources into each three. Strategy formulation, set of processes involved in creating or determining an organization's strategies. It focuses on the content of the strategies, right? So, just like anything else, you have to have content. It's not about the amount that you have. A lot of times it's about the content in which you have, right? I could write a 30-page paper, but if it doesn't have any content, it could all be fluff. It doesn't have any content, then it's not worth anything. We need content when we're talking about our strategy formulation. We have to have concrete, numbers, facts, and directives on what we're doing. So again, it's a set of processes involved in creating or determining an organization's strategies, right? So how do we determine what our strategy is? What is our process? And you should have a standard process that goes 1, 2, 3, 4 that you would continue to use. Strategy implementation, right? So if you have strategy formulation, you create it, then you have to have strategy implementation in which you implement your strategy. So the methods by which strategies are operationalized or executed within the organization, it focuses on the processes through which strategies are achieved, right? So you formulate it, and then you implement it, and then you also have to go back and test to see if what you implemented went the correct way, because you can't just implement it and just say, oh, we put it in, things went great. No, you have to go back, do audits, do checks, see what worked, keep it, see what didn't work, throw it out, see what kind of worked, and see if you can enhance it and keep it. If not, then go ahead and throw that out too. This is interesting. I want you to, kind of on your own review the diagram, and I'm going to read about the SWOT analysis. But you see, we talked about the mission and organization's fundamental purpose. Goes down to the SWOT analysis. This is kind of like drilling down to formulate strategies to support that mission. So the strategies that you formulate here in the SWOT analysis are going to support this mission, right? And then we get on to internal, external analysis and good strategies. But about the SWOT analysis is one of the most important steps in formulating strategy. strategy. Using the organization's mission as context, managers assess internal strengths, what are we good at, distinctive competencies and weaknesses, as well as external opportunities and threats. What's threatening our company? Opportunities, what are we okay at but we can get better at, and what haven't done yet. The goal is to then develop good strategies that exploit opportunities and strengths, neutralize the threats, right, and avoid the weaknesses, right? So either you can get better at your weaknesses or you can avoid them, depends upon what your strategy is. So as I already discussed, and we determined SWOT is an acronym that stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Remember that. That'll be in a lot of your classes. Probably has already been in a lot of your classes. Organizational strength, a skill or capability that enables an organization to create and implement its strategy. So we're going to kind of go over those strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So kind of remember. So take that overarching view and then kind of learn the underlying definitions. So organizational strength, a skill or capability that enables an organization to create and implement its strategies, right? So that's your strength. You want to accentuate your strengths. Organizational weakness is a skill or capability that does not enable an organization to choose and implement strategies that support its mission. So let me read that again. This is a weakness. So a skill or capability that does not enable an organization to choose or implement strategies that support its mission. So it's not allowing you to do that. So, either you run into a roadblock that you can knock down, or you can avoid it, go around it, or you can just turn back and go the other way. So if it's a weakness and it's a determined weakness that's going to stay there, then maybe it's just something that you don't do, because inaction is an action, meaning if you don't do anything, that's still an action choice. Organizational opportunity, an area of in the environment that, if exploited, can generate higher performance. So not exploited in that way like I'm exploiting somebody, but like, hey, for instance, let's say a juicer. So I use a NutriBullet now, but I used to use a juicer. And when I used a juicer, it shot all of this stuff out the back, and that was kind of like all of the fiber, and so that just went out the back. So just think about that. If a company says they put a bunch of blackberries, blueberries, and raspberries in there, and they do that, and they get the juice out, but then they have all this other roughage that comes out the back. Maybe they want to make a salad out of it or something like that. They can exploit that opportunity, because they're just wasting what's coming out of the box, or coming out of the back. It's funny, on Seinfeld a long time ago, when I was still watching it. They had a thing where the company said, "Hey, I only like the top of muffins," which I could relate to, because the top of the muffin is the best part. So they just cut the tops off the muffin, and that's all they sold was the tops of the muffin. And then they just threw away the backs of the muffins, right? But that was a waste. There's an opportunity there where you could do something else with that bottom part of the muffin. So organizational threat, an area that increases the difficulty of the organization performing at a high level. What could increase? Maybe there's a new tax that's levied upon you. Maybe there are new laws that don't allow you to operate the way that you had typically operated, right? So that's a threat. Maybe it's competition. Competition is definitely a threat. So those are things that you have to look out for. So this is a differentiation strategy. So all kind of different strategies. You want to check these out. You want to see how you see it at a company level, but also look at it at a personal level. Like, how do I have a differentiation strategy that I can use within my workplace? A strategy in which an organization seeks to distinguish itself from competencies through the quality of its products or services, right? So your company wants to have high quality products and services, right? So they distinguish themselves from everybody else. So you, as an individual that work for a company, you can have a differentiation strategy and say that the products and services, meaning that the service that you provide to your internal people who work with you and your external people who don't work with you, customers, that you're going to differentiate your performance from everybody else, because you're going to give superior performance, right? So you can have a differentiation strategy yourself within an organization. Overall cost leadership strategy. It's a strategy in which organization attempts to gain a competitive advantage by reducing its costs to below the cost of competing firms. So if I reduce my costs less than your cost. So I'm ABC company, you're XYZ company. If my costs get reduced below what your costs are, now I have a competitive advantage. Now I can lower my prices and sell whatever it is. We sell tables. I sell my tables for less than what you can sell your tables. Then now more people are going to buy my table. So it's an overall cost leadership strategy. I'm going to get more sales than you do, and then you have to react and respond. It's kind of like limbo. It's like how low can you go contest, and see what company cracks first. Focus strategy. This is a strategy in which an organization concentrates on a specific regional market, product line, or group of buyers, right? So maybe I just focus on California. You know what? I don't want to deal with anything else. I only deal with California. Insurance company I used to work for only did insurance for California and Arizona because they knew, because they did a lot of insurance for farm workers, and they knew that the farm workers in Arizona and California were the majority throughout the United States. That's where all the fruits and the nuts come from, and so the insurance that they provide would only need to be for California and Arizona because we don't need to do it for for the other states because it's not really applicable. Um, Product life cycle is a model that portrays how sales volume for products changes over the life of product, right? So product life cycle, you have to say, okay, this is how the ebbs and flow go of this particular product. So there's certain products that came and it's like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever, but sooner or later it's going to have its own ebbs and flows. It's going to go up and it's going to go down, as you see right here with this lovely diagram, right? So sales volume is high, right? Right here, and you say, and then sales volume is low right here. This is just a barometer, right? So introduction, sales volume is going to be low, right? We just got out there. This first time you saw a Snuggie commercial. Oh, looks like a great idea, but I'm not probably going to get one. Then you get to the growth area, and then you see that second Snuggie commercial. You're like, you know what? That backwards robe looks pretty good. I'm going to get me a Snuggie. So now they start to grow in terms of their sales volume. Then maturity, very mature. Everybody knows about the Snuggies. I bought 2 Snuggies. Everybody in the house has a Snuggie, and then I'm buying the Snuggies for Christmas gifts as well. So at maturity, you're at your highest sales volume. Then you get into decline. Now, I'm a retailer for Snuggies, and I have 4,000 Snuggies in a storage shelter somewhere because at some point they just were no longer the hot item. They were no longer the hot commodity. And then that's when you revert to something I talked about in a different class is dumping. Send them to another country who hasn't heard of Snuggies and sell them there for half the price so that you get more of your return on investment instead of just leaving them in the storage unit. So the product life cycle. Managers can use the framework of the product life cycle, introduction, growth, maturity, and decline to plot strategy. For example, management may decide on a differentiation strategy for a product in an introduction stage and a prospector approach for a product in the growth stage. By understanding the cycle and where the particular product falls within it, managers can develop more effective strategies for extending the product life cycle. So if you know this, you know how the product flows, the product life cycle flows, then you know how to make the best decisions. And then, as we talked about earlier, you can diversify. You have different types of products that you can sell. Nothing wrong with that. You don't just sell the only thing. Company I work for, we don't just sell one product or one service. So diversification is a number of different businesses that an organization is engaged in, and the extent to which these businesses are related to one another. Right? Sometimes they're related, things that you would sell in tandem, tables and chairs, and sometimes they're not related. I'm gonna sell the table, but we also sell pet iguanas. Right? So you diversify in different markets. Single product strategy, a strategy in which an organization manufactures just one product or service and sells it in a single geographic market, right? But you can also, I understand that's a textbook definition, but you could also have a single product strategy that you only sell one thing, but you sell it everywhere, right? We make one thing good. I make the NutriBullet, and that's it. That's it, and we're gonna sell it, and we're gonna sell it everywhere, right? But even them, they diversify, come up with new different models, and call it something different. Before there was the Magic Bullet, then they just say, hey, let's put Nutra on it and just put only fruits and vegetables in there, but it's the same thing, right? So you could have a single product strategy. It could be just in one state or one geographic area, but it could be in many geographic areas and you just sell one thing. Or you diversify, extreme diversification and sell a whole bunch of different things like Amazon. Related diversification, a strategy in which an organization operates in several businesses that they are somehow linked with one another, right? So it's related diversification. I sell T-shirts, you sell underwear, and you sell socks, right? Those can be related. All things that you wear under your clothes, right? T-shirts, socks, and underwear, right? So it's a related diversification. And sometimes you can sell packages, right? So it's Hanes, and I want to sell these T-shirts, 5 T-shirts, 5 pairs of underwear, and 5 socks, and there you go. All right, so check out our little guy from Monsters High or whatever, or Monsters University. I think that was the name of the movie. Very interesting. So check out that in regards to Disney's diversification strategy. Unrelated diversification, a strategy in which an organization operates multiple businesses that are not logically associated with one another, right? So, at one time, for example, Quaker Oats owned clothing chains, toy companies, and restaurant businesses. What does Quaker Oats have to do with clothing chains, toy companies, and restaurants, right? Other than they can, sling their, their oatmeal in the restaurant, nothing, right? But because they have the infrastructure, because they're a bigger company, they could do it. So if you take a company like Xerox, look up Xerox and see all the different things that they do. I know they've been up for bids for big business for things like different parts of Cover California, stuff like that. But it's and you say, well, they just make copiers. No, it's because they have an infrastructure to diversify. If you have a good system, you can pretty much do anything. So a lot of times companies are just looking for that system, looking for smart people, just like you're looking for good individuals, right? You don't have to necessarily have this skill set. We're just looking for good individuals. We know that you're good. We know that you're smart. You can think, you can learn, you can grow. We'll take you, and I'll take my chances with putting you in there, having you learn the process, even if you make some mistakes at the beginning, and then we're going to do great, as opposed to just keeping somebody who just simply knows the functions. Portfolio management techniques, methods that diversified organizations use to determine which businesses to engage and how to manage these businesses to maximize corporate performance, right? So you want to maximize your corporate performance because you want to look at your portfolio. What do we drop? What do we keep? What do we put more money into? What do we put less money into? Maybe we put less money into it because everybody is buying it and everybody knows about it, and we don't have to have commercials anymore, right? The BCG wants you to look at this one on your own because there's a few different things on it, but it's Boston Consulting Group matrix. So it's just like a matrix that kind of shows you, where the different companies and opportunities lie. Be sure to read Tough Times, Tough Choices. A good story as well. I don't really see too many in the book that they put in that aren't, really good ones. This is what we're talking about the BCG matrix. So I want you to review that. I'll read this part to you, but I want you to do it. And this is the diagram that you need to be thinking about as you're reading about the BCG matrix. So the BCG matrix helps managers develop a better understanding of how different strategic business units contribute to the overall organization, right? So we've got popsicles, we've got ice cream, and we've got slushies, right? Popsicle, ice cream, and slushies. By assessing the SBU on the basis of its market growth and rate and relative market share, managers can determine decisions about whether to commit further financial resources to the SBU or to sell or liquidate it, right? So just like I was talking about, do we put more money in? Do we sell it? Do we liquidate it? Right? So if you just check this out, this is market growth rate, high, that's how you're growing, and this is relative market share. So if you have high growth rate and high market share, that's a star, right? If a star, just like on your test, if you get a star, it's good. But if you have high market growth, or I'm sorry, low market growth rate, and then you have high market share, that's a cash cow, right? Cash cow, you keep getting the milk from the cow, it's good to go. If you have high market growth rate and low market share, that's a question mark. We're not sure. It's a possibility that we could do great. But if you have low growth rate and low market share, that's a dog, and you should sell that dog and get rid of it. So make sure that you examine that. It's really interesting. A lot of companies use that and to assess their business unit, kind of at a higher level. Read over this too over the GE business screen. Let you read over that on your own, as well as the matrix. Tactical planning. So a plan aimed at achieving tactical goals by developed to implement parts of a strategic plan and organized in sequence of steps designed to execute strategic plans, right? So you want to be tactical in terms of your moving. So remember, we had our strategic plan, then we have our tactical plans made by the directors, then we have our operational plans made by the managers, right? So put your plans together, float your ideas down to the managers, have them do what they need to do. Everybody's in alignment with the mission, and the company works like a well-oiled machine. Right, and that's what we want. We want everybody on the same page. Once you review this on your own, these are types of operational plans, like single-use plan, program, project. So review that on your own. Table 3.1. Very helpful. But definitions are right here. So single-use plan developed to carry out a course of action that is not likely to be represented in the future. So that's just a one-time thing. So we're gonna work for a company. We're gonna make these T-shirts with yellow and pink glitter on it. This one time. So we're gonna have a single-use plan for that. Program is a single-use plan for a large set of activities. A project is a single-use plan of less scope and complexity than a program. So project, like you have with project managers, they're just going to do this one particular project and move on from there. And they do different projects throughout the organization. Standing plan developed for activities that recur regularly over a period of time, right? So that's a standing plan, always happens. Policy is a standing plan that specifies the organization's general response to a designated problem or situation. So if A happens, then we do B. That's the policy, right? And then that leads right into our standard operating procedures, right? So if A happens, then we do B. Standard operating procedure, or SOP if you see like an acronym for it. Standard plan that outlines the steps to be followed in particular circumstances, right? So if this happens, then I give you a manual and say these are the steps that you need to take. Rules and regulations describe exactly how specific activities are to be carried out. So these are rules and regulations of what you do. Contingency planning, anytime you hear the word contingency, that means backup, right? What's my backup plan in case these things go wrong or don't go out or don't carry out the way that they were supposed to, or that everybody listed in the standard operating procedure. The determination of alternative courses of action to be taken if an intended plan is unexpectedly disrupted or rendered inappropriate, right? So can't do it, can't do, we say that A happened, we're supposed to do B, can't do B, we have to do C. Crisis management, always good to have someone that's good in crisis management. Set of procedures the organization uses in the event of disaster or other unexpected calamity, like a business resumption plan. A lot of companies don't have that. So not to go into the crazy doomsday talk, but like what if a bomb hits a company, boom, and explodes? Let's say nobody's in the office, right? Where do you go from there? How do you get all the information? What's the backup plan, right? Do all the calls get routed to a different office, right? So you have to know and understand how to have a business resumption plan. Check out that little part on the safety rules posted there by that old school time clock that you punch in. Hopefully nobody's using those anymore. Um, Ongoing planning process. So I want you to review that on your own. These action point 1, action point 2, 3, and 4. I want you to review that. But contingency planning, most organizations develop contingency plans. These plans specifically specify alternative courses of action to be taken if an intended plan is unexpectedly disrupted or rendered appropriate. We already talked about that. If you can't go to plan A, you have to go to plan B. We learned that as young children. So now, end of chapter 3. Here are a summary of learning outcomes and key points. I want you to make sure that you go through these supplemental parts of the textbook. They will help you. This book is a very easy read, as typical with things in the field of management, because they're easy to read because they're very applicable to the real world environment, especially if you currently have a job and work in a corporate environment, or any other type of environment, retail, whether it be corporate, anything like that. These things definitely apply. So be sure to review this video carefully, read the chapter, watch your supplemental videos. Be sure to comment on the supplemental videos in the discussion question section, and make sure that you do great on your test. So as always, have a good day and a great week. If you need anything, just email me and I'll be able to assist.